Hello, welcome to our Contemporary World History course here at Waldorf University Online. I'm Dr. Kevin Mason. I'll be your instructor as we navigate world history from 1945 to the present over our 8 units spaced out over the next 8 weeks. And as we kind of get into this, I think this is a really fun class. I've taught this in our residential campus here at Waldorf University in Forest City, where I serve as the departmental chair for history, geography, and political science. And then I've taught it online pretty frequently over the past few years. And I really like this class because 1945 to the present, we can get into a lot of really interesting conversations about how a lot of the things that pop up in kind of our world news today, how they developed kind of in the recent era over the past 50, 60, now 70 years. A couple of basic things about the course as we get into it. You're going to have assignments due every week. So one of those is your discussion board. And your first discussion board post, which should be your response to the question, is due every Saturday night at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. In that, you'll kind of work through the question that's provided. So for instance, in Unit 1 here, the first part is you just have to introduce yourself to your classmates with your name, location, kind of what you do, maybe what your future goals are. Share as much as you feel comfortable with there. I think it's good for us to kind of get to know what everybody in the class has going on. Then the second part dives more into the content. So part of that, so you're going to have to go to Unit 1 over on the left-hand side. You click on that and open up where it says Unit 1 Study Guide. That'll link you to the textbook. I think it's good to get into the textbook before you attempt to do the discussion board and let that kind of inform what you're bringing into Part 2 there. So you're going to have to talk about colonial philosophies, which you'll find in the assigned reading from the textbook, of assimilation or association, what I want you to do in Part 2 of the discussion board after you introduce yourself is to talk about which of those you think is most successful during the imperialist era. Now, if that doesn't make sense to you at all right now, it will once you get the reading done. It turns out we got to learn some things here in our college class, and I want you to also explain why. So once you get that post done, you're in a good position to respond to a classmate. Your responses to classmates are due by Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. And on those responses, I want to see a little bit more than just kind of what I would think of as a baseline. Good job, I like what you said there. That doesn't really contribute anything to the conversation. A good way to advance those or offer a counterpoint. Maybe if they chose a different colonial philosophy than you could explain your rationale. Or maybe asking some follow-up questions. You'll notice that's how I like to approach the discussion board. I ask a lot of follow-up questions. So once you get your initial post up there, usually the next day, I'll try to get in there and ask you a follow-up question or two that leads you to expand that out. So that can be a good way for us to kind of keep that conversation going. Make sure on the discussion board you're bringing in kind of outside information if you need to. I think sometimes evidence is very important to making our points, especially in history. Once you kind of get that discussion board down, you got one other main thing to do during this first week, and most weeks you'll have either an essay or an assessment due once you kind of get into the unit. So in this first one, you have an assessment. And in that assessment, it consists of 2 questions and some matching. So I think sometimes it can be good to open that assessment before you do your reading and kind of look at it, where you've got two questions there that are kind of like essays. They got to be 200 words in length. The first one is going to ask you about what were the chief ideas associated with liberalism and nationalism, and kind of how were they put into practice in different parts of the world. I think it would be good to know that before you go into reading. So maybe if you were like taking notes on that reading, you could sketch out some of the things, then go into putting your best response forward there. The other question is about kind of what arguments have been advanced to justify European takeovers of societies in Asia and Africa during kind of the second half of the 1800s. And so were they justified? Those are the kind of things I want you to be thinking about there. Then you got to match those dates anyway, which sometimes I've seen students have a lot of success with doing that while they're working through that content kind of on a week-to-week basis, or kind of as they work through kind of the reading. It's easier to maybe match those dates as you're doing that. The worst thing you could do is cheat. One of the things we used to see a lot when I first started teaching online about 12 years ago, we'd see people kind of just copy and pasting stuff from all over the internet. Now, that kind of good old-fashioned plagiarism we'll still catch. Your assignments get run through software that shows us both that kind of plagiarism and also the emergent kind of AI plagiarism. And I want to just take a minute to talk about that. You're in college to learn things. Oftentimes, learning things takes work. And as you do this, I want it to be your work. So I don't want to see you using outside AI software to create the stuff that you're kind of making for this class. If you do, like I said, we're going to run it through those scanning tools. And if we have problems with that, you'll fail the assignment. And ultimately, if it becomes a recurring problem, you're going to fail the class. This is a thing that I think we're monitoring more and more in the online format, and as well as the residential format. And I've really seen this pop up since I've been paying really close attention to this the past few months. And I mean, I've been failing people in almost every single class. Don't let that be you. You're here to learn, to grow, and that takes the work. So if you can commit to that, I am here to help you however I can. Best ways to kind of reach out if you're running into different stuff, you got questions to clarify. The easiest way to get me is through email, kevin.mason@waldorf.edu. I check my email pretty constantly. It pops up on my phone. And if it's a simple question where you're kind of stuck with something, it's usually pretty easy for me to get you unstuck. You can also use where it says ask the professor over on kind of the left-hand side menu. That's a little bit slower sometimes because I'll get a notification about that, but then I got to get on my computer, and I'm not always at my computer, log in, look at it on there, and then I'll answer your question there. I'll get back to you, but it might just take a little bit more time. And I know that a lot of times with our online students, it's a challenge that you're fitting in with a lot of other responsibilities. I did a second master's degree at Waldorf Online just to kind of see what that experience was like. My wife is currently a Waldorf Online student working on a master's degree. And I know that many of you, if not all of you, have all sorts of different things that make demands on your time, whether that's jobs, family, or just other responsibilities. And I know when you're working on this, sometimes you can run into a wall, and a lot of times I can get you unstuck. And I try to be really active in getting back to you to get you unstuck so you can keep moving towards it. On the flip side of that, when stuff comes up, make sure you communicate. I am here to help put you in a position to be successful, and a lot of times we can just work through whatever it is. Sometimes, if you need an extension, I'm usually pretty good about that with assessments and essays. One of the things to be advised of is the discussion boards, because they're participatory. The university policy says we can't extend those beyond the week. So a lot of times it's good to get those knocked out. And then if we need some flexibility on the assessments and essays, I'm usually happy to do that as long as it's not a every single week kind of thing. Otherwise, I just want to make sure that you're reaching out with questions. I really do like teaching online because I believe this is a powerful tool for people to advance their lives. And I take pretty seriously my role in helping put you in position to be successful. So if you have different stuff, make sure you're reaching out. I look forward to getting to know you and your work over the next 8 weeks. And I think we're going to have a great course. Good luck.